Hello, my name is Jesus Noguera. I am from Cuba, and I run a small travel agency called Cuba Careo Tours. I specialize in small groups, tailor-made itineraries.
Hello, my friend. Hello, hello, hello.
Hola, Jodi. I am very, very happy to see you. I am very excited. Thank you
This,
for
you
this
know what?
opportunity.
I have been waiting so long to be able to have this conversation with you. And it's just been really, really a little bit tricky in regards of how do we sit there and get the Wi-Fi and which do we use, Zoom or Skype, etc. So right now, I mean, you're from Cuba, you live in Cuba, but right now, where are you?
Right now, I am in Torino, Italy, and I will be here for a couple of months. I'll be back in Havana probably in March. So I am here right now with my wife. She's Italian, and I'm staying with her all these hard days of coronavirus nightmare.
Oh, not, you know what? All right, so we're going to talk about that, but I mean, because there's so much to talk about. But all right, well, you know what? Let's just start there. So, how has it been during the pandemic? Because there's so many things I want to talk to you about. But let's just start right from the beginning, where you are in Cuba, but right now you're in Italy, where it's like the epicenter um, in Europe. So, how has it been for you during the pandemic? And how are you and your families dealing because of the different situations in different countries?
It's been hard all the way. Imagine in Cuba, early March, the first cases were detected, and from that moment on, the curve began to go high and higher and higher, and the peak was in our summer. But fortunately, our healthcare system was able to flatten the curve and put it down, all the way down. We have less than 150 deaths in Cuba, and compared to other countries of the world, we're doing very well. So from that point of view, I feel very safe in Cuba. I know that the health authorities are doing their best and they're doing great in regards to the health of the people. What I am very, very concerned in Cuba is about food supply and tourism, which is my uh, area, is where I work. I am a tour guide. Uh, in that regard, we haven't been able to have a single tourist in Cuba since March, when they all went back to their countries. So the Cuban economy right now is doing very bad. It's in very bad condition. Just yesterday was announced that the airport in Havana will be open next Sunday. That is a hope. And we really need people to come to visit Cuba. It's one of the major industries and it's bringing a lot of jobs to people. Right now, it's not happening. It's very, very bad.
So, what? So I've been to Cuba during my MBA, my master's in business. Cuba was part of my thesis, and so I mean, I'm in love with your country.
Thank you.
I'm from Haiti, and it's like it's next door. We're next door neighbors, and when you're on the west coast of Cuba, you're like having the Haitian fusion, the Cuban music. I mean, it's like the music, the food, the vibrance, the people. I mean, there's so much that Cuba has to offer, and everyone always hears the negative things about Cuba and Fidel and all these different things. And I always say, instead of just hearing about the negatives, you have to see the positives of going there. If you're able to go and see the people. I mean, and when I say the three things that I will always remember about Cuba, the laughter. Everywhere I went, people were laughing and they're smiling and singing and music. And after school, everyone will be in the ocean. People are so amazingly welcoming in every single way. One of the things where, and I know that there's like certain areas in Cuba that Cubans still cannot go into and tourists can go to, but for me, being Caribbean, I would go into certain areas and the police would stop me, and I'm like, oh, I'm so sorry, and just the compliment of like, yes, you can tell I'm an Islander. Yes, I'm so excited. You can tell I'm one of yours. And so, as simple as that is, where um, everyone is vying for the best for their families, the best for themselves, highly educated population. What are people doing to try to get through this? Because you're right, tourism is by far one of the biggest resources for Cuba. What are people doing? Like, I mean, like, what are some steps that people have been doing for all these months?
Jody, you're very right. Um, Haiti is the closest uh, land to Cuba. They're only 77 kilometers away from Cuba to Haiti, and we have a lot in common. For many, many years, people from Haiti have been going to Cuba, and they're very welcome, of course, you know. And yeah, if people pay attention to the mainstream media picture of Cuba, it will be hard to overcome that misunderstanding, misconception of Cuba. So I highly recommend everybody to go and see with their own eyes. As you well said, the Cuban people is very welcoming and highly educated, happy, music, culture, art. It's booming in Cuba in spite of the crisis. That's the first thing any foreign visitor will see once they arrived in Havana. A very welcoming people, and I'm certain that the experience will be totally different to what they read in the mainstream media.
Go ahead. I was gonna say, like, I didn't want to interrupt you because I wanted to ask you how are, like, what are people doing? Because you're sitting idle. You're sitting idle and you're waiting for airports to open. You're waiting for tourists to come back. What are people doing to keep that momentum going in regards of keeping some sort of economy moving in Cuba?
The economy, it's not doing well, as I said before. Agriculture is the most important area to get recovered right now. Uh, Cuban farmers are doing a great job, big effort, without proper machinery or tractors, irrigation system, even without enough fuel to work. So we need an extraordinary effort to overcome all these uh, hardships that we're facing right now. No, people are spending a lot of time right now trying to buy food, which is the priority. And many of the cultural activities, many of the economic activities were put uh, uh, in a halt. It's not working at all. Theaters were not working. Uh, Museums were not working. Many people were just at home waiting for the pandemic to be brought to an end. And it's the daily life in Cuba right now, waiting for situation to go to normal. Public transportation and transportation between provinces, it all was stopped due to the pandemic. And it created a big uh, impact in our daily lives.
Um, I'm going to pause on this conversation just for a little bit because I want people to understand who you are. So, what's the story of Jesus? Like, where did you come from? What's your family like? How did you grow up? And how did you get to the point where you became? I mean, I want to hear about like your education, everything, but I want you to lead us to how did you get to the point where you are now the voice and the educator of Cuba? And so, what's your story?
I was born in Havana and I was raised in Havana. I studied at the university. My major is international relations, and I worked for a couple of years. Uh, First as um, a social worker up in the mountain ranges in the central part of Cuba. I was working in rural communities, and I was doing a research to improve the living conditions of farmers up in the mountain ranges of Cuba when the crisis of the 1980s was very, very hard. Then I decided to become a tour guide. I became a tour guide about 20 years ago. I was working for a state-run company called Amis Tour. That's when I met you, when you went to Cuba. I was your guide. Very wonderful, fun memories I have from your trip to Cuba. And then in 2017, I decided to be an independent uh, travel agent. So I've been uh, trying to go on my own in a very competitive environment. We said it before, in Cuba, there is a very high level of education. You find excellent professional tour guides anywhere you go, all over the country. So for me, it's a big challenge to be on my own. And I think I've been successful for the last 3 years. Many friends will come with Cuba Careo to visit my country. I am very happy to see my friends back in Havana. Now that I am running my small business, my travel agency, I'm very proud of it. And I hope the next 5, 10 years, I will be doing what I'm doing right now. I really enjoy, I have a wonderful time, and I always learn.
All right, so I have to say that I was so surprised that it took you so long because when I was, I mean, when I met you, I mean, I met you through a mutual friend, Jarrett Barrios. That's like, that was, he lived in Massachusetts and now he's in California. So I met you through a mutual friend. And I was like, you are the show. I mean, you're the show, you're the educator, you are the informer, I mean, you are everything and everyone knows who you are. So when you were working for somebody else, I'm like, God, he should be doing this by himself because even when we came back and we're on Facebook and we're on, I mean, in Instagram and all these things didn't exist 10 years ago, but Facebook, everybody, the amount of people that were engaging with everything that you said and the accolades of the love around the world for everyone that meets you. I don't know how any other company does well in Cuba because you are so popular.
Thank you, Jody.
Person. And we want, I mean, and I say this all the time where when I meet someone, I don't want to let you go because you are such a good, kind person.
Thank you.
I mean, I met you, it was like 11, 12 years ago. And we're always communicating via social media, which everyone just assumes we're, well, like, what do you mean you're talking to someone in Cuba? I'm like, social media, it's easy. Like, I could communicate with anyone, anywhere. But how, I mean, where did that come from? Like, that's where, like everyone talks about, I want to start a business, I want to engage with my target audience. Where does that come from you? Because you're so popular being you. So is there someone in your family that's in the entrepreneur, like, or is an entrepreneur that owns their business? Or is it just like your family is just, it's just part of what you guys do, embracing people and really bringing people into your community?
Well, I could say regarding my family that I got the nature. My nature comes from my family. Very happy people. My mom was a wonderful dancer, always laughing and making jokes. So my dad, he was a wonderful singer. So I think I learned that from them. But to tell you more, I think the atmosphere, the nature, and the desire to be a private entrepreneur comes from the fact that in Cuba right now, there are many important economic and political changes being carried out at the top levels. But I mean, by the government. The government is encouraging Cubans to go privately to work, and they are giving some space for private initiative. Now more than ever, now more than before. We had a very controlled economy, like a Soviet Union type of political and economical model for more than 30 years. And it took a while to dismantle that type of model. Now, more than ever, with this crisis, we see an effort from the top authorities of the Cuban government to give more space to private initiative. So I took advantage of that. I got a license. I, I began to pay my taxes for the first time in my life after so many years. I'm contributing to Social Security, and I feel that there is a safest environment for private initiative right now. Now more better than before.
All right, so I definitely want to go into that. And so, so when I was there, it was very stringent. There was like again in regards of the U.S. and Cuban relationship is always been there's always been contention. The rules are very odd where you can't contribute to the Cuban economy, but the U.S. pays for Guantanamo Bay. We give eggs, wheat, and I forgot one chickens for humanitarian reasons. So the relationship is contentious, but it's there. You can travel there as a dignitary or a student, but you can't travel there as a holiday. But if you go through other countries, you can. So there's all this gray area of how the relationship is. But when I was there, it was very clear that it was very hard for a lot of Cuban members to do certain things. What was it? I mean, it wasn't. You started your company 3 years ago. What was it that made the government change? Was it because Fidel had passed away? Because Raul saw that we need to get more people, more of the community more vibrant in what's going on? Was it because they're looking at other countries and seeing, hey, we're behind the 8 ball if we don't find ways to create entrepreneurs? What was it that made that change? Because the pandemic is now, but you've had your business for 3 years. So what happened?
So right after the collapse of the Soviet Union, when we lost more than 80% of our foreign trade, Cuba began to change for obvious reasons. The socialist bloc didn't exist any longer. So foreign investment was introduced in our economy, and a space for capitalism was given in our country. That transition took longer than we expected. In the 15 years ago, the Cuban Communist Party had a meeting and they passed what is known as the guidelines for the future of Cuba. The guidelines is like blueprint for the future of our country. In that important meeting, all these ideas were discussed. And basically, we are uh, undertaken all these measures that were already consulted with the majority of the Cuban people more than 15 years ago. But it's a very slow process. It is Cuba, and yeah, it takes time. Cuba is such a different country than the rest of the world, but little by little, the situation is changing, and the conditions are uh, totally different. Of course, I agree with you. This pandemic, and also and very especially the tense relationship with the government of the United States, it's speeding up all these changes. In a way, you see that there is a need to go faster in the changes in Cuba. I don't think Cuba could be ruled the way it was ruled 10, even 5 years ago.
Yeah.
It was not an efficient economy, it was not flexible, and we need more of both. And that is the case. In order to understand what is happening in my country, I highly recommend everybody to go to my country
Yeah.
and experience with their own eyes our reality.
Yeah, you know, I mean, I'm very lucky that I am first generation born in America to Haitian parents that always put in my mind, in order to understand a culture the food, the people, you have to go. Because when you read the words of someone else, you don't know what the mood was of the person when they wrote the book or wrote the paper. So they could have had a good day, they could have had a bad day, but now you're reading someone else's words. Read
Exactly.
after you go, because then now it's your opinion and their opinion, and then you can form a conversation around that. And so I love that you're advocating for the country. I'm going to ask the question of, right now the economy is changing in Cuba. More and more the government is embracing individuals starting their own companies, their own businesses, their own initiatives. What would you say to someone that has had the idea of creating a business, and right now, because of the pandemic, they're thinking maybe this is the time? Where would they start? What would be the best advice that you'd give to them in regards of how do you get the ball rolling on starting your own business during a pandemic?
I would tell my uh, colleagues in Cuba to keep trying, not to quit their dreams. Even in the worst years of the pandemic, in the worst month of the pandemic, I was thinking about the ways I could find to make my business successful. And from limited resources that I had at home, I was always trying to improve connections with friends. And it's hard. It's hard because when you think about the hardships that you have to overcome in our country right now, you could be discouraged, totally discouraged. Anyhow, they're always relatives, friends, people that you know that they will be willing to help you in any simple way. Any help that you can take, just take it. And that will lead to a higher stage of your business. So, step by step, little by little, you will gain some space. And all you have to do is to be confident, steady in your work, and successful will be there.
You know what? I love that you said that, because sometimes people start an idea, and then they're afraid to tell other people, and they lose momentum because they start something, and when they fail, they're like, all right, I'm done. Maybe this is not, I was not meant to do this. And for you to just remind people, and not just the people in Cuba, but anyway, like I have been speaking to people around the world, and the same story comes up over and over again in regards of, I'm afraid, I don't want to do it, having a regular job is safer. And so to know that the economy, to know that the government is supporting you, one would assume that you
Yeah.
even faster, but some people, the fear is there. So how do we eliminate the fear of starting the company? Because I have the idea, I'm excited, I even have the backing of my family, but it's the overwhelming fear of, I have the job that I'm secure, I get paid, it's guaranteed, and then I have the idea and the dream. I don't know where it's going to go. So how do I get rid of that fear to keep that momentum going?
It's very personal, Jody. There are no recipes. There are no rules. To go out of the comfort zone is very difficult. You say, "Well, I'm in my home. This is warm here. To go out on the streets to fight for life is gonna be hard for me." But then you realize that you're starving at home, and food is outside. Just jump out of the cliff, and it's personal. It's to me it's very encouraging to see my friends and my family and encouraging me all the time, and they are giving me one simple idea, and they are giving me one simple advice, and I follow it, I take it, I don't miss the chance. I always pay attention to whoever. It could be a 10-year-old boy or an 11-year-old girl or my grandfather giving me an advice. I would take it. I would take it. That is for some reason that someone uh, told me that. I will definitely pay attention to every single sign for me to improve my business.
I love it. During this time, so we've had months and months and months of thinking and organizing, and just being in our own head as well as outside, and just watching how the pandemic and the pandemics. I mean, we have the elections here in the United States. We have elections in different countries. We have the Black Lives Matters. We have the pandemic that went around once, subsided, and now we're going around the second time in regards, and the numbers are higher. During all of this time, what things that you would have never thought about doing that you've done personally and for your business that, oh, look, I have the time, now I'm doing this, that I'm happy I'm doing it, I'm happy I created this new thing. What's the new thing that you either did personally and as well as for your business to make it that much stronger?
You have to be focused on what you want. There's so many distractions around. I I had more time with my family, my little daughter. I devoted my whole day to uh, teach my daughter how to read and write. She's a second grader now. We spend a lot of time together. I think that is a blessing. I didn't have that time before. I was going out of my house at 8 o'clock in the morning and coming back at 9 p.m. when my daughter was already going to bed uh, to to rest for next day. I really enjoy having a normal, regular, maybe longer than expected family life. She's amazing. She's making my days beautiful. I miss her a lot right now, and that is one thing that I learned that I didn't have in my life as it should be before this pandemic. Uh, Regular loving life with my family is a treasure.
And then in regards to your business, all right, so I 100% agree with that. We're moving too fast. We're just always moving too fast, and we're always work, and like, and then once you're not working, you're squeezing in family time where it should be the other way around sometimes. So I love that you're able to spend that quality time because she's going to remember that. I mean, I think that children and pets at home are going to remember the time that you got to spend with the family. The teenagers, even the teenagers that are annoyed being at home, they're going to remember the time they got to play board games and just go out and just go for a walk and talk with their family, which is amazing. What did you add to the company that you would have never thought about adding because you had time to think about it?
Jody, I think what I was lacking of, and it was logical because I was starting my company, my own business from scratch. I think the pandemic is telling me that I should always have a plan B. I should have a plan B because plan A could be stopped for whatever reason, and I didn't have that plan B uh, when the pandemic began. I had my savings, I have my money, but there's no income, and I'm spending, and I am not putting back in my box. So when all this is history, and it will be history someday, I am certain that I need a plan B. It could be, I really enjoy vintage cars in Cuba. I'm planning to buy a couple of them, and that could be my plan B. I love Chevys, 1957 Chevys. My wife is a little bit jealous. I said, no, I love you more. But plan B should be number one lesson of this pandemic for me. And you should always be creative. You should always be creative in life. And that would give you a lot of success and happiness, creativity.
I have to say that I love that you even mentioned the cars because everyone always talks about how in Cuba has the most amount of classics, the U.S. created classic cars. It's so funny that it was. I mean, I own Audi, and it was so funny where when I saw an Audi, I'm like, oh look, because everyone has a classic car, and everyone at nighttime was working on their cars. I mean, when you say intelligent community, intelligence on top of mechanical. Like everyone knows how to keep their cars running, how they know all parts of their cars. And so to see all these amazing, beautiful classic cars and they are running flawlessly, love it, just love it. So yes, I would say that's a really good investment without a doubt.
Thank you. Muchas gracias.
um, so what do you believe, I mean, in your opinion, how do you see the travel industry, like, I mean, how do you believe that the travel industry will evolve in the next couple of years? Because the airline took a major hit. All countries, all tourist-heavy countries took a hit. Vaccination, I mean, they announced that there's possibility of a vaccination by the end of this year, and then for the entire country to be able to be vaccinated, hopefully by spring of next year, if everything goes well. How do you think tourism, I mean, what do you think that tourism will have to do to get their numbers back to where they were pre-pandemic?
It's going to take time. It's going to take years to get recovered from the impact of COVID. I have read some reports that probably in 2024, the whole world, yeah, 2024,
Wow.
we get to the number that we had prior to COVID. I mean, flights, people flying and people buying airplane tickets in not until 2024 we will get the same numbers that we had before the pandemic. You pointed out a vaccine. Yes, that will give any nation the safety net that is required for people to feel safe and to travel abroad. Luckily, in Cuba, we're going to have a vaccine developed by Cuban scientists next year. It is already known that in February, Cuba will have a vaccine, and in March, the vaccination campaign should start. So from that point of view, I'm very confident that Cuba will be a safe destination for tourists. Right now, they announced the opening of the airport in Havana. Every single person who arrives in Havana will be having a PCR. And the PCR is the test that they do to detect COVID.
Yep.
That is for free in Havana. It will be for free. Every tourist, every person landing in Havana will have to pay for health insurance. It would be $30. But the COVID test, it's for free or included in that health insurance that you pay. So that is a very important step in order to make people feel comfortable and safe when they travel to Cuba, and to make Cuba a safe destination. But it's going to be different. People will have to wear masks. I am very glad to see that social distance and the use of the mask in Cuba is compulsory. The personal relations will change, of course. It's not the same to see the beautiful laugh, people smiling, and than to cover that with a mask. But that is something that we have to learn how to live with. And it's better to do it that way than not to travel, in my humble opinion. To stay at home is devastating. Once you stay for 6, 7 months at home, I really want to go out. I really need to go out, and human interaction, it's always there. We need that. It's part of our nature. We're human beings, and we are gregarious animals. We need the interaction with other people in order to carry out our lives. And that tourism will be different, but still people will need to travel under the new circumstances.
So because you just said that, let's move over to the next location. You're in Italy. Italy,
Yeah.
everyone in the world is watching Italy. Everyone's watching how the numbers were dramatically high. The doctors, I have a friend that I spoke to, and she was saying how she's shocked at how she's watching what's happening in the States because in Italy they're so strict, and yet now the numbers are going up again. You are safer in Cuba. You are safer in Cuba than you are in Italy. You're with your wife. How is it there? I mean, how has that whole entire concept of being in Italy been for you, knowing that the restrictions are strict? I mean, by far more rigid than they are in Cuba.
Yeah, the restrictions are very rigid here, and I have seen it. People are behaving themselves, and no matter that, the number of cases has been rising. Uh, right now, there is a lockdown in Torino. There is a lockdown. I cannot go out without a paper uh, that I have to sign saying that I don't have COVID, and I am only going out to buy food in the market and to do some physical exercise in my neighborhood. But no restaurants are open, no museums are open right now, no other places like bars or um, coffee coffee
Coffee shops.
shops. No, they are not open right now. Life is totally different to what I was expecting. In fact, when I got here was more relaxed. But I needed to do this trip. I needed to come here, and I am taking care of myself. I'm keeping social distances. I am always wearing a mask. I'm washing my hands all the time. I think so far that's the best medication to follow the rules, to pay attention. And I've seen people in this city doing well so far. I haven't seen any problem with anybody around, but I stay most of the time at home. I was studying Italian language. I'm supposed to be here until March, and school was shut down. They say, no, we're not going to come to school for the next month. So the lockdown will last until the 10th of December. And that's hard. That's hard. But still, I love to travel. I love to see other realities. I'm here with my wife. She's studying. She's doing her master's degree, and we needed family time as well. So we're taking good care of ourselves.
One of my favorite questions to ask everybody is like, did you marry well? Because during the pandemic, people are realizing, did I marry well or did I not marry well? So did you marry well?
I did, Jody. I'm very happy. She's a beautiful, wonderful person, and she's studying. She has a beautiful, and brilliant, bright future ahead. I'm supporting her all the time. I think this is important that in difficult moments to be together. It's very, very important, and that's what we're doing, being together.
I love you so much.
Thank you. Muchas
um,
gracias.
so, so if you were going to give us a tour, so now I'm going back to Cuba. So this is me. I go back and forth. If we were to
Beautiful.
give us a tour in Cuba, let's just say I'm the first time. I've never been. What would be the number one thing that you would say that it's a must see, and why is it a must see in Cuba?
Interaction with the Cuban people. I don't have to think twice to answer your question. Forget about beautiful beaches. It's true, we have many. Forget about beautiful location, mountain ranges, and food and dance. People, people, interact. If you can learn a little bit Spanish before you go to Cuba, that's okay. If you can learn a little bit of Spanish, speak English. Speak from your heart, and people will always uh, uh, go back to you. I mean, people will welcome you. And I have one story to tell you to
Oh,
prove what I'm saying. We went to a baseball game one night, and we were a group of about 15 people. So when the baseball game was over, we took taxis to go back to the hotel, right? And I helped 5 people to get in one old American car, another American car, vintage, beautiful car, back to the hotel. Well, there was one car that didn't show up after 15 minutes, 20 minutes, half an hour, 45 minutes. And Americans began to freak out. And I said, oh my God, what happened? They were kidnapped. They, all those theories. I say, hey, take it easy. We didn't have a telephone mobile number or anything. It was a totally unknown person, a taxi driver, someone who stopped. And after 50 minutes, almost 1 hour later, the car shows up with the kids in the car saying, wow, this is so beautiful. We had a great experience. And tell us what happens. And well, the driver kept saying, uh, mi hijo. And they couldn't understand what he was saying, but he kept saying, quiero que vean a mi hijo. And he was saying, basically, I want you to meet my son. The taxi driver took the whole bunch of students to his home for them to meet his baby boy who was born a month ago. And that's what he didn't speak a single word of English. He didn't speak any other language, but he was laughing and saying, oh, you have to meet my baby boy. You have to meet my baby boy. Jodi, that was the highlight of the trip. Forget about the baseball game. Forget about the studies that they were doing. No, they will always remember a taxi driver in Cuba who took his taxi to his home to show the whole bunch of unknown people his baby boy. That's Cuba for you.
All right, well, all right, so I have many Cuba stories, but all right, I'll give you one. So I don't have any so you can't use credit cards. I couldn't look, I couldn't use my credit cards. I didn't have any main contacts. I had your number once I got to Cuba, so I couldn't contact you before because, I mean, there was no way for me to just call you. So I remember landing in Cuba. So I went through Mexico. I went to Mexico, came to Cuba. I landed and I have nowhere to stay. I have no nothing. And everyone's like, my parents were like, you have a plan. I'm like, I'll figure it out. Sure, I have a plan. I mean, I'm a student. I have a plan. And so I landed there. And so I remember getting off the plane. I had my suitcase and I'm just like looking. I mean, I'm just in awe of just being in Cuba. I'm so happy to be there. And a woman comes up to me and she starts speaking in Spanish. I'm like, I'm sorry, I don't speak Spanish, but I speak French. So I kind of understood a lot of words that she was saying. She started speaking in English and she said, do you know where you're staying tonight? Or do you know where you're staying? I'm like, I go, no, I don't have anywhere to stay. And she's like, she goes, do your parents know that you're here yet? I'm like, no. She's like, there's the phone. Go call your parents to tell them that you arrived safely. And when you're done, come to me. I'm going to have you stay at my friend's house. And and literally, she arranged the car. I called my parents, happy I got there safely. She called her friend, got in the car, stayed at her friend's home, which was like a little bed and breakfast, stayed there for a week. It was amazing. The wife was pregnant. I remember sending her gifts. I sent her all these baby clothes when I came back to the States. But she arranged dinners and things like that at her friend's house. And it was just so wonderful where when I wasn't with you, when I wasn't with Jared's nephew, when I wasn't just like wandering by myself, someone always was available to say, what do you need? Can I be here for you? Do you want to go for a walk? I mean, I was always able to be with family without being with family.
Yeah, that's my number one advice, Jodi. Go to Cuba to meet the Cuban people, meet the real people. Forget about everything else, politics, economics, geography. Just talking and the people will reward that effort that you made to buy an airplane ticket and to land in Havana.
Oh, I mean, I cannot wait to go back because
Thank you.
I want to do the West Coast. So I am coming back because I love it so much. And
Thank you.
it's just like we're next door neighbors. And so to have
Yes.
our island so close and there's so many things that are mixed so well that I just want to embrace it and just do as much as I possibly can to support the people there. And just by going and talking and engaging and coming back and sharing the stories, that's supporting. I always tell people it doesn't just have to be about money. It's just about sharing the amazing stories, because if I'm learning from a real person, not just a book, then that means a lot to me, because that
Exactly.
word of mouth is far beyond
Exactly.
that anyone else could do. All
Yeah.
right. So my last question to you. There's so many things we could talk about. I mean, because like, oh, I'm just so happy I can talk to you. But my last question, because I don't want to take too much more of your time, is if you had a personal and a professional ask to anyone that's listening to you right now. This is the question I ask everyone. If I had a personal ask and a professional ask, what? Oh, wait. Before I ask that question, there is something I forgot to ask you. I'm going to rewind a little bit.
Good.
How your dad was a singer and your mother was a dancer. You slipped that in there, but then I kind of kept on going. We were talking about so many other things. How was it being raised by a singer and a dancer in your home? And do you sing? Do you dance? Like what?
I'm horrible. I'm oh my goodness. I'm ashamed. Oh no, I'm a horrible dancer. I am a horrible singer. My my family, yeah, I'm sorry, I'm not. You put him on spot. I wish I could. I saw my sister dancing. I saw my brother singing. I say they got it all. They didn't leave anything behind for me. What can I say? I'm not going to tell you a lie. No, I do all things well. I think I do all things well. I'm not a typical Cuban in that regard. That I'm not a good dancer. I'm not a good singer. I don't smoke. People expect Cubans to smoke big cigars. I don't smoke. I don't drink
What do
rum.
you mean? You're not a typical Cuban? What? You don't smoke cigars? What?
I don't. I'm a social drinker. I love beer, but I don't drink much rum. But that is Jesus Noguera. That's me. I can't do anything to change that.
I'm sorry, but what? You don't drink mojitos? What?
Oh yeah. Well, mojitos are my favorite. You nailed it. Yes, mojitos. Um, daiquiri. Oh my goodness, I love daiquiri. The way that Papa used to drink it, yeah, frappe. I love it. I
So
love it.
I'm not a daiquiri person, but mojitos are by far one of my favorites. And in Cuba, they're made differently, so I love them in Cuba.
Yeah.
And I've tried to have bartenders here to try to make them, and I'm like, I go, it doesn't taste the same. And it's I know that people try and they're good, but it's not. It's just made differently, and there are different ingredients. So yes, the mint's there, yes, the rum's there, but it's just so amazing in Cuba. That's another thing I miss a lot, the mojitos, because I had mojitos like I started my day with a beautiful coffee, espresso, oh, beautiful. And then I went back for my mojitos every day, all day, everywhere I went, I had mojitos, which is.
You're absolutely right. A good mojito goes well with Havana Club, not with Bacardi. Forget
Yeah,
it.
yeah,
No
it's true.
Bacardi.
Well, it's so
And
funny. Look, same thing with when I go to Mexico, and then when people sit there and talk about Jose Cuervo, and in Mexico they're like, no, there's better. Like, no. So people are so fixated with certain things here, and then when you go to the country and they ask for it, everyone's like, there's much better things that we have.
totally agree with you.
Okay, sorry. So, that was like I had to get that out. So back to that final question. If you had a personal ask and a professional ask of anyone that's listening to you right now and watching you, what would be your personal ask and what would be your professional ask?
Uh, Personally speaking, I will ask. You mean to other people, right? Um, uh, I would like more people to understand my country, to see that we are human beings. We're not from another planet. We don't have horns. We're not green. We're fighting. We're struggling to survive. Sometimes in a very difficult environment, but we're welcoming to other realities, and we would like to learn from the outside world. We would like to have an exchange with the outside world, and in that regard, Cuba is more open now than 5, 10, 15, 20 years ago. So we need interaction. We need people to come and give us ideas and give us advices. And at the same time, Cuba has a lot to offer to the rest of the world. Cuba has, as I said before, an incredible biotech industry, for example. We have been able to work on our own vaccine to fight the COVID. So why not to take advantage of that? Why not to cooperate with the Cuban biotech industry? And Cuban doctors have been sent all over the world. Cuban doctors were here in Torino, Italy, to fight COVID in this first world country. Cuban doctors are doing a terrific job in poor communities in Africa, in Asia, in other countries of the world where nobody goes. And we have that to offer. I mean, it's an asset. It's something that comes from within our nature. But at the same time, we need people to see that, to forget about the mainstream media, what they say over and over again about our reality. I think it's very important that people go, they draw their own conclusions, and they see with their own eyes our reality. I would ask people to come to Cuba, to visit Cuba, just with an open mind, and go back, draw your own conclusion, and tell your family, your relatives, your friends what you have seen in Cuba. That will help us a lot.
And that's your personal, and that's just so amazing because I mean, you just, the essence of what you just said was just so beautiful, and so articulate. So thank you very much. What would be your
Thank you.
professional ask? What's an ask for your business?
Jodi, I need so many things in my business. I'm learning every day. I'm learning. I ask myself to be more flexible, to understand other markets. I've been working with Americans for 15, 20 years, and we have so many in common. I am opening right now my business to people in other countries, in other areas. I'm talking with people in Asia, in Israel, and sometimes I need to open my mind to understand their views and what they need when they travel to Cuba. And I ask myself to have the capacity to be in their shoes in order to show them my country, to let them understand my reality, which I understand perfectly well, but it's different to show Cuba to Americans than to show Cubans to someone coming from Palestine or from other country. You know, I ask myself to have the capacity to be able to do that in the future, because I'm planning to expand my business, and not only the United States. I need to bring people from India, from Bangladesh, from Africa, and I don't know yet if I am able to do it. I wish I could.
Well, you know what? As you were talking, I already know that I'm going to introduce you to another amazing, beautiful tour guide that I know. Her name is Sagit. And she is in Israel, and she was our guide when we were there, and she was amazing, like amazing. And so
Thank you.
you will have a great
Thank
I will connect you guys off when we're done with this. But I mean,
you.
she's like by far one of the people that I adore as well. And she's a good person. And she brought our tour to her house. So it's one of those people where she literally changed. I mean, she's so highly educated in regards of what she's doing and how she's doing it. So I think that would be a great connection for you too.
Thank you so much, Jodi. I really appreciate it. Thank you.
Yeah.
You're an angel.
You like, come on, we are angels. I thank you. I mean, I've been asking you for months. I'm like, I can't wait to talk to you. And I'm so happy that I am happy and you're in Italy because we were able to do this where it was a little bit harder in Cuba because of the Wi-Fi. But I mean, I have to say, thank you, thank you, thank you for everything that you do. Thank you for opening the world. I mean, like, I love watching and seeing and learning about Cuba through all of your posts on LinkedIn, on Facebook. I love the articles that you share with us so that we're educated about what's going on. So it's very helpful for a person that, I mean, again, I was there 12 years ago, and just to be continually learning about what's happening there is really, really important. I do have one last question, is that I have amazing friends in Cuba from like Cuban descent that are here. And they don't want to go to Cuba. They have no desire to go to Cuba because they only know the stories of what their grandparents, not even their parents, but what their grandparents said. I have Haitian relatives that they sit there like, I'm Haitian, I'm Haitian, I'm Haitian, but they would never go to Haiti. And I try to go to Haiti as much as I possibly can. What would you say to a younger generation that they only know the stories of what their families have said and it's all negative about Cuba? What would you say to that new generation?
Jodi, you have pointed out a very sensitive issue. The Cuban community, especially in Florida, is very angry whatever is happening in Cuba. I think that as Cubans, we all should embrace a different type of policy other than confrontation. We need to heal from inside. We need to heal. I totally understand there are reasons why people could be very, very upset. But when I ask people to come to Cuba, including uh, my countrymen, Cuban fellowship, they should come in a spirit of cooperation and understanding. And that is the only way Cuba could change. Confrontation has never been a good path to follow in order to heal and improve any society. Look, for example, what Mandela did when Mandela was appointed president of South Africa. He didn't call for war. He didn't call for confrontation. He said, we need to heal, we need to welcome everybody, and that is exactly what we need in Cuba. I see influencers, I see people calling for war and devastation, and that's not the speech. That's not the language. That's not the approach. It's not going to do any good, both sides. I think people in Cubans in the United States, they should understand what is happening in Cuba. And the only way to understand that is to approach to our reality with a very different approach to what is happening right now.
Yeah.
I, I am very, very sad to see Cubans with hate speech. It's happening, hate speech. And people who are my friends, or I consider my friends, are telling me that the only way Cuba could uh, improve is to kill all communists. That's not going to happen. I mean, there is a long history of uh, communism in Cuba, even before Fidel Castro made the revolution and came to power in 1959. The Cuban Communist Party was founded in 1925, 1 year before Fidel Castro was born. So there are communist ideas, there are communists in Cuba even before the revolution. And those ideas have been a great impact, you like it or not, in our history. So to kill communists is not a solution. It's not going to lead to anything good. And sadly, when I am in Cuba, I see also a very similar speech from Cubans in Cuba in regard to Cubans in the United States. That confrontation, we need a common ground. We need a common ground of understanding, and that's what I am asking for. And I am wishing for to be smart enough to have that common ground between among Cubans, both sides of the Strait of Florida.
I have to say, I never want to leave anything on on a heavy note, but it is one of those moments where being a person, and both of us, we travel around the world, we see that in other countries as well. And so it's not just Cuba. I go, but it is in all, I mean, in Haiti. I mean, like I have many, many relatives that would never, ever in a million years step foot in Haiti. I go because they think about all the crime. And I'm like, I go there. And then when I'm on the beaches and when I'm seeing the people, and when I'm eating the food, and they're like, where are you? I'm like, I'm in the place where you don't want to go. I'm with the people that you don't want to talk to. I'm in the culture of where we descended from. And so when you're in the States and you're talking the negative, you have to understand. And I mean, it's relatives, friends, Haitians that I've just met. I go, the words are easy to say, but the action is a whole different thing. So taking the action is so much more stronger than just the words, because talk is talk is talk. But what are you going to do to actually make a change?
We need to do a lot.
We need to do a
Actually,
lot.
I'm contributing. I'm open. I'm open to. I think my job, my business, it's a very good position. And what I'm doing is creating bridges of understanding our between our two countries. In 1 year, I work with more than 100 Americans, and they all come to Cuba with their own mindset, their preconceptions of our reality. Sometimes, not always, and when they go back to the United States, they go with a totally different idea, a totally different point of view,
Yeah.
and that is important. That is important. What I want is people to draw their own conclusion. Go talk with the people, interact, and as I said before, we're human beings, and we 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 need better understanding in the future for the good of both countries.
See, I told you we could have talked about so many more things. There's not enough time in the day. Oh, Jesus, thank you so very much. I mean, I really, oh my God, I'm so happy I got to see you. I got to talk to you. And I mean, just even just learning about what's happening for you, it means a lot. So thank you, thank you, thank you, my friend. I love and adore you so much.
Jodi, I am the one saying big thank you from the bottom of my heart you for giving me this opportunity, and I really, really appreciate it. Muchas gracias, Jodi. Muchas gracias.